Well, good morning, folks. It's Barry's Best Honey. I'm Mike, and I do bees. Welcome back to Southeast Louisiana. Today, only got a couple tasks to do. Well, folks, it is Saturday, May 27th. It's a beautiful morning. I don't know, it's probably about 75, maybe 70, somewhere in there. Beautiful morning, a little breeze. So we're gonna go work some bees this morning. So anyhow, what are we doing? Well, we're not doing a whole lot of anything. You can tell we're not doing much when I'm doing cutout videos. So on last Monday, I went through all of my colonies here at home. I have not even been to the ones in town. I set them up with plenty of space, and they're just going to do what they do. I decided to go through all of mine here just to make sure, because we're seeing a lot of people with swarms, and I did not take you guys along because it was after work. I just needed to get through them all really quick, and I only found one that was trying to swarm. And then I also knew about, from about 2.5 weeks ago, a drone layer that I got. So I didn't go in that one, but I got that. So that's what we're going to look at today. I went through everybody else and everything was fine. They put space on them as needed, just to make sure there's no swarming going on. It's a weird season, of course, as you well know, and we're seeing people are seeing a lot of big swarms. And I think what that is, now I'm just assuming this because you know me, I'm not a how-to guy and not a big researcher or anything else. I do a lot of reading and I do a lot of observation. Definitely not a how-to guy. I'm a how-I-do guy. It's a what I've read, kind of what I've experienced kind of guy. You know what I mean? I'm just going on what I'm thinking is going on. Is I'm seeing these feral colonies, and I think the buildup with them was shut down, just like we saw in the colony that we did a cutout. That was a spring move-in. That was a spring swarm, and I believe that to have been an early spring swarm because we had a magnificent blackberry bloom and a blackberry flow that had the hives just blowing up. I was concerned I wouldn't be able to keep up just with my work schedule as fast as they were growing. And then of course we had that freeze, and I think what happened is when it shut everything down, it burned out 3 weeks worth of flora. Of course it took out the tallows, but it burned out all that miscellaneous flora that we have. And when it did that, it put everybody in kind of a mini dearth in the spring, I would say. And so I think what you're seeing now is these colonies have found whatever it is they needed to find. Mine have been managed, so I gave them space. The feral ones haven't, and so people are seeing a lot of big swarms. So I thought maybe I'd go through mine just to make sure there's not anything I'm missing. So that was around the 21st or something, 22nd, I don't know, and they're just not growing. They're maintaining. What I'm seeing is about 60% of my colonies, 60 to 70% of my colonies are built up into the second deeps. Everybody's got bees, but there's just nothing to go bring in. The supers, there was an increase in some honey, but not much. Normally this time of year, I'd be today, matter of fact, this weekend, this is last weekend in May, usually around the Memorial Day time frame, I'm yanking out 20 supers or so to get extracted, cleaned out in the yard, and I put them back on dry to go back behind what's being filled with tallow. That's normally what I do. I pull bottom supers, spin them, clean them, reinstall them, fill them. And that's not happening this year. Not even close. Nothing even ready to think about being pulled. So that's what's causing it to just kind of be so slow. So really all I have to do is go out and remedy a couple of problems. And I'm actually going to do a little experimentation different than what I would normally do with this one colony. So we're going to go out there. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to it and show you what's going on. And hopefully it'll be painless, easy morning for me so I can get busy with other things I got to do around the house. So out here in the yard, what we're going to work on is a drone layer. People talking about drone layers this year worse than normal. I don't usually get one. About every couple years I'll see one. Kenny down the road, he said he had 5 or 6. Of course, he's got 160 colonies. And then Bruce from Alabama, Bruce of Bruce's Bees was also telling me he had a bunch this year. The one with that bee castle box, that one swarmed. I knew it swarmed. It had some cells, so I just let it requeen. And I think when it requeened, that's where I got my drone layer from. Now we're gonna go in here and we're gonna take a look and see what the status is of it, because it's been a while. Honestly, I just didn't have time. You know, I work a full-time job and I'm running out here going crazy with bees, just trying to keep up with what's happening and trying to make sure they have everything they need not to swarm. And I just didn't. Hey, it was a drone layer. It's not. It's going to do its thing. Whatever. I'm going to go in and remedy it when I got time, and that's what we're going to do today. You got to remember, these drone layers are eventually just going to finally dwindle themselves down to nothing. She'll only lay so long, so we're going to go in and look at it. But that's what I think happened, is because of a swarm. But that's one thing I haven't had to fight as much as swarms, and maybe I got lackadaisical in it, because with that no flow, it slowed things down a lot. So our drone layer actually has some honey in the top. They had started building their box a little bit and brood, but that's not all they did, because they swarmed. But still, again, one of those weird, I think it's just, this is just one of those that's got those genetics. It just seems to be swarmier than others. Nothing was done different. I wasn't in it as much because I was growing it up. This one wasn't a planned producer for me, and it just grew up and swarmed. It swarmed late, so it had to have been a small one. But let's see what they're doing in here. So I want to look for a drone layer. It wasn't laying work, or didn't appear to be, because the patterns were solid. That's what a drone layer a lot of times will do. And they didn't have multiple eggs in it. It was one egg, and they were just coming out as drones. And then, of course, as they begin to go capping them, they get real spotty at that point. So usually you can spot a drone laying queen. You can kill her. And what I'm going to experiment with today is something I don't usually waste my time to do. And you may say it's not really a waste of time. For me, it is a waste of time to try and remedy these when I can take this drone layer, especially if I can find her, and just shake them out and let them all come back here and go into the hive next door and not even worry about it this late in the season. I don't usually get drone layers early spring, so if it was early spring, sure, I would work on saving them, maybe combining them. And even in this case, if it doesn't work out, I might combine them. But I think what I'm going to try this time is, if I can find her, and there's no guarantee I can find her. If I can find her, I'm going to put a frame of brood in here, see what they do. I've never done that before. I've heard you can do that. So I got time. It's not like we're harvesting honey. They build cups. They do everything just like a normal colony, except lay drones. And sometimes I think that can fool us too. We see a decent bunch of eggs and some cells, and we go, wow, good queen. If we don't at least take a look at sometimes at the cap brood, it can fool us. There's the queen right there. Look at there. There's our drone layer right there. I'm gonna put her in a cage. She fell off on the bottom board. Well, I've got her. Why are you caging her, Mike? Well, I want to double check her pattern before I go crazy and kill her. There you go. I put her in a cage. I was struggling. I got one glove on and one glove off, but I had to catch her. She's in there. So I've got the drone layer. Let's double check this colony and see. Yeah, I pulled the frame. I was going to lay it on the because I wanted to get my other glove off. I was going to lay it on the lid so I could isolate her, and she fell off on the lid, so I just grabbed her. So I'm looking here. You won't be able to see it, but she was laying eggs just like any other queen would. Again, nectar. So we're going to go in the bottom. So we've got their drone layer. Let's take a look in the bottom and see what she has done. You see how you can't, it's hard for you to tell, because at first glance that looks normal, but it's not. It's all drone brood. You'd say, well, it doesn't look you know, sticking out way out. What is, it's actually above, like, it's hard to tell the texture. I don't know if I can do it with the camera like that. It's not flat. And even if that was flat, that's awful. But it's loaded, and that's where it's just full of, I mean, full of larvae. Cell after cell after cell. But what you can't see in the camera is the textures. All this is raised up. Well, now here's some regular brood here, huh? That's interesting. It's mixed in with drone though. Yeah, I think a lot of that's just drone. Oh, that fired them up pretty good. Oh, look, there's another queen. Look at there. So what do we have? Maybe that other brood is coming in from somewhere. So we got 2 queens. There's a second queen. Huh, what do we do now? Who's the good one, who's not? Because I'm seeing some normal brood in some of these now all of a sudden. So we got double queens. That's an older queen. That's a stretched out queen. She's got chewed. I wonder if she's our drone layer. How do we figure it out? I don't know. Got to separate them. So now I've got 2 caged queens. I don't have any more cages, so I can't afford to find any more queens. So that throws a wrench in everything. Because I will say this, there is some brood in here that's mixed in that is flat. It's not drone layer. So who would it be? What do? Do you leave just one in and see what they do? I think that's what I'll do. I mean, this is definitely a drone laying colony. But there's eggs on the top, and that other queen was walking around on the top, and the bees are all over her. This is the original one. This is the second one I caught. Or maybe not. Yep, that's the first one I caught. There's the second one I caught. The bees are all over. They know she's there. Honestly, what I'm gonna do is make a nuke up and put one of those queens in the nuke and see what she does. I got a spot for her. I need to figure out if one or both or none or what's happening as far as the drone layer goes. It can't be just a simple morning where everything works out the way you plan, can it? It never works out like that. All right, so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break this down to one box. I'm gonna leave those eggs with that first queen I caught. I'm gonna put her in a nuke with those frames. Yep, I think that's what I'll do. I'll do a small split. I'll split off 5 frames of bees, and I will put that queen that was in here back in here. I'll put that queen that was in there with those frames. See what happens. Kind of figure out who's who. Because maybe I'm seeing some brood that does look normal. It's poor, grant you that. One's the daughter, one's the mother, most likely. Maybe they're both sisters, I don't know. So I'm gonna split them up. All right, so I split them up. There was only about 4 or 5 frames in the top anyway. She had some eggs in them. There's space for her to put some eggs. I'm kind of going to see what that queen that was in the top that looks a little smaller. She looked flighty. She's the one that jumped off onto the lid. I'm going to put her back in the nuke. I'm going to put the other one back and see what happens. I've seen 2 queens in a colony before. I've never seen 2 queens in a colony that has a drone layer in it. So, you can figure out which one's a drone layer, pinch her later, requeen it, get it ready for winter. Sounds good, but will it work? So both queens are attracting nurse bees, and that's a good sign. So both of them have pheromone that they're attracted to. So let's go ahead and put this one. This is our first one. This is our smaller flighty one. Gonna put her in the nuke where she came from. Those are the frames she came from. Let's get this so we don't mess this up, guys. Here she goes. Alright. Oh, there she went. Oh, she went down in there. Good, right in time. Perfect. So let's see what she does. We're gonna give them the opportunity to prove who's good and who's not. Now, frankly, if you look at what's going on in the hive, neither one of them looks good, but I don't know how long the other one's been there, so I don't really know who's good and who's not. But in the end, they both look poor, and the colony was a swarm, so I don't know. It's something to do. It's a fun experiment. Let's do it. Again, it's not like I'm pulling honey right now. Here she comes. Let's let her out. She, to me, seems like she's the older one. She's just bigger, but this, now maybe I did mix them up. This one looks smaller. Nope, there she goes. It's a bee hunter. I am gonna look in that colony right there that I got the brick standing up. That's telling me I wanted to put a super on it. Oh, what's going on? Why did I say it needed something? You know why? Because I'm seeing a bunch of frames up here that have bees on them, so I must have thought, oh, they need room, but I don't know. There's no nectar coming at the height of our flow, so yeah, there's no nectar in here. I must have thought they needed it. Yeah, they're putting nectar in here. This is amazing, guys. This thing has had a super on it now, and it's not put. There's no honey in it, and it's the end of May. This is the height of our flow normally. That's crazy. And it's got the hazy color, meaning they've already dried it, the little bit that's in here. So this one probably won't make any honey anymore. It's probably done, unless like some believe that tallow is gonna, that late bloom is gonna produce. I'm skeptical of that. And here we go. This is a perfect example of what we're seeing. A hive that's actually, they've moved out. They haven't filled these last two, but they've pretty much filled the top, and they've got the bottom. It's good and heavy with brood and honey. Box of bees. It's not packed, but it should be exploding right now. Like they should be producing so many more bees than what's bringing in honey. But it's not happening. One other thing too is it's like there's a small bit of nectar coming in. We saw it in that colony we just looked through the drone layer, and like they're having nectar come in. Look, they're slowly building wax, which usually this is done in April. So there's enough coming in to trigger them to continue to, or trigger the queen to continue to lay, and trigger the colony to continue to grow some. So they're keeping their numbers. The one thing we'll have to watch is to make sure they have food in the dearth. There's nectar in there with pollen. I mean, the bees look healthy, they look heavy. They just don't have any stores to bring in. So you just got to really make sure we don't allow them to starve. Look at this queen. I mean, tell me there's not going to be some brood coming out. They're growing. So if we do get some sort of late flow, it'll be great. I mean, we'll have the numbers. So as you can see, they're growing. They're doing what you need them to do. Well, she knows there's something, but let's leave it up to the bees to figure out what to do, and make sure I do my part and keep them fed so they don't starve if they go through too much. Good brood, rainbow honey over the top. You know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this nest at all. It's actually configured well for winter, although we have a whole dearth in summer to go through. There you go. So let's put her back together. Don't want to harm a queen this time of year. See, they're backfilling that full of nectar, but they're not going into the super. But best I can understand that is, if it's not heavy enough, they're going to keep it down there with them. They're going to utilize it. They're going to consume it. They're going to store it. It's got to be a really big excess boom, bang, bam flow. You know what I mean? And when that comes in, then they know they just shoot it straight up top. Because once that flow hits, they have no choice but to go up with it. They're not going to backfill their nest because that queen wants to get those bees out and start producing. And it doesn't happen that way. So they're in that weird zone too. So just got to watch them, take care of them. You know, we get any kind of a harvest, hey, it's great. If we get a small one, we count our blessings, but take care of our bees, continue to be good stewards. That's what we got to do down here in our situation. But anyway, that's going to be it. That's all we had to do is go to a couple hives, and I got some surprises. So in one was the drone layer. I planned on, if I found her, pinching her and putting brood in there, and if I didn't find her, shaking them out like I always do. That's what I normally do. I don't usually try, but there's nothing else going on. In the drone layer, that's going to be a pretty neat experiment. See who's who and see if it really matters. That's pretty neat. So, hey, that was kind of fun. I would be telling you a lie if I told you it's not frustrating right now for me. Just dealing with little stuff like this rather than yanking a bunch of supers and going in there this evening and extracting honey. Yeah, I'd be lying if I say it wasn't frustrating and a little disheartening, because it is. This is not something I've seen before, and so when you know you've got 40 plus supers out there and there's barely any honey in them, and yet the only thing you're doing is working on problem hives that you really foresee not going anywhere, maybe not even going to winter, it brings you down a little bit, you know, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But the majority of my bees are, you know, good and strong enough to maintain, strong enough to keep on going, and I'm not losing hives. I've got decent sized colonies to make it on through, but there are several out there that it's even more critical now that I get the small problems ironed out, because I've got to keep as many colonies going into the summer as possible to make myself a good strong bee yard or apiary come fall, so we can go into winter. But that's what I'm looking at already. I'm already looking at winter. Again, I don't know. I don't hold out hope for the tallow. I looked at the tallow tree and it's got shoots, but I don't know. We'll see. Only time will tell. The problem is bees, and Kent said this the other day so well, bees, they deal in concentrations of nectar. And so if I have a tallow that's popping out a little bit here, because it's not like a normal bloom on those tallows. It's like half the shoots are coming out. And if that's the case, man, that's not going to be enough to sustain 20, 30, 40 colonies, depending on how many a person has on their area. So, you know, hey, I'm not thinking, I don't know, I think we may see something trickle in maybe, but I'm just going to leave supers on longer than normal and see what gets capped and what doesn't, and just keep on working on little problems like this. That's all we can do at this point. It's just like I said earlier, just be a good steward of the bees, do our best by them, keep them going, and don't let them starve, because, you know, you gotta figure too, they need honey. It's not just me that needs honey. I mean, they need it more than me, let's put it that way, to stay alive. So I got to make sure that's maintained, and there's nectar coming in. And when you see them backfilling that nest like that and not going into the top, that's just telling me that they're using that, they're consuming that. It's not a copious amount, it's not a large flow enough for them to start pushing it north, and that's what they do. So got to watch for swarming too, even late in the season. And if they swarm late in the season, that's not good for them, not good for me. So, but that's okay. We just keep on going. We keep keeping bees, and we keep pushing forward day by day, day at a time. I appreciate all you guys watching. I appreciate your support. Hope you enjoyed this video. It's Barry's Best Honey. I'm Mike, and I do bees. Y'all have a great week, and may God bless you. We'll see y'all later.